Hey there, how are you doing? So I've shot this video today for you if you are someone who is in the midst of trying to create a change in your life and you're struggling a bit with the self-belief. You're struggling with the belief that what you wanted to create will actually happen. You're struggling a bit with the internal belief in yourself to actually manifest the change that you want to create. So what we're going to go through in this video, I'm going to give you a different technique. It's more of a strategy. So it's more of a bigger picture way to approach what you're trying to create and actually have it happen. Okay, and make it more enjoyable in the process. So let's go into it. If you're wondering, first of all, if you're new to this channel, this is not going to make sense, but if you've been following my content for a while, I've been away for a week or so, just over almost around about 2 weeks. I had to go back to the UK to look after some family who have not been very well, but I'm now back in Cape Town with my wife, so we're back in the game. And I wanted to cover for you now this insight, which I've covered in videos before, and I've gone really in depth on this topic, but I'm going to remind you, especially if you feel stuck, okay? If you feel like you're in almost analysis paralysis, where every direction you turn, if it's a relationship you're trying to create, or better health, you're trying to heal yourself, or it's more money, right? It's more financial freedom. It's a different career, right? A different venture you want to go down in terms of the work that you do. Whatever it is you're trying to create, the only way it happens, if you want to do this consciously, even if you don't want to do this consciously and you want to do it through just hard work, it always comes down to your level of belief. And unfortunately, because a lot of the content in the world of manifestation, there is a big emphasis on trying to be able to completely embody the feeling that what you want to create has already happened. Now, that is definitely helpful, okay? But in the stages, if you've been doing this stuff for months or even years, in that process, you can have a lot of sort of failed practices where you learn a lot of information, you put it into practice, you feel like maybe you build some momentum, but you keep coming up against the same blocks. So when you start to see this pattern, you almost get this mirror reflection of, okay, this is something to do with me, right? And it might be that you've seen the circumstances in your life aren't really matching the visualization that you're doing, or the feeling that you're trying to put into yourself that your future is already happening, right? You start seeing things crop up and you think, that shouldn't be happening. And if this goes on for long enough, it starts to then reflect on your internal beliefs about you. You think, okay, maybe I am doing something wrong here. And then you get stuck in this loop where all the techniques that you try, all the videos that you watch, maybe the courses that you sign up for, are trying to get you to embody the end result as if it's already happened. And this is the right thing to do. However, the missing piece is that where we get stuck is we try and jump from being in a state of lack with a particular area of our life for quite a long time. So say, for instance, if I was trying to create and manifest a large sum of money, or if I was trying to increase my income monthly from, I don't know, $500 a month up to something like $10,000 a month. If I've never done that before and I don't know what that feels like, if I try and go in and visualize and feel that as real, if I try to picture myself in that scene of it already happening, or I'm trying to use maybe an affirmation or scripting, it's really difficult to go to that end point where you completely believe and you are embodying it. It is definitely doable, but there is a better way to do this. And that is meeting your belief with where it's currently at, okay? To simplify this, I'm just going to give some brief context, but if you've ever followed David Hawkins' work and Fred Dodson's work, looking at levels of consciousness, where we have different emotional states attached to our vibration, okay? So when we have a really high frequency, it's super easy for us to embody the feeling of the end result. So for example, if I'm trying to create financial abundance and I'm someone who is constantly in a state of abundance and joy, it's going to be easy for me to feel that abundance of the result I want to create, right? If it's a large sum of money or if it's smaller increments of money every month, that's going to be easier to do. If, however, I've been down the scale a little bit in an area of my life, like my finances or relationships or my health, if I've been in lack for a while and my emotions attached to that part of my life are typically lower down the scale, right? They're more related to fear, to guilt, to shame, to frustration, to feeling angry. It's going to be super hard for me to feel like I am loving my new relationship. I am so in love and at peace with my financial freedom, right? I'm so grateful for my healing and my health. Because this belief within us, because our emotional state has been in lack, it's really hard to make that jump. So what you can do is incrementally move your level of belief up. And the reason that this works so powerfully is that when your level of belief is low, you get stuck in what's called analysis paralysis. And you might have heard of what that is, but it's essentially where you are completely swamped with doubts and overthinking and indecision, right? And you start to doubt that anything's going to change. You overthink the process. You overthink the technique maybe that you're doing as well. So you become really technique focused in terms of trying to orientate yourself around, okay, am I doing this the right way? Do I need to maybe visualize for a little bit longer? Or do I need to maybe try and feel my emotion more here? And I want to get into this stuff and teach it to you in the most simple way. But if you are trying to embody something that feels very far away from where you've been to begin with, you can shift that and make it a little bit easier by moving yourself up the scale. So rather than saying, I'm feeling completely free and grateful for my financial freedom and trying to embody that, if that's been difficult for you to do for a long time and it's conditioned into you in a particular area of your life, you could just slide yourself up the scale just a little bit, okay? I've talked about this before, but you could use something like a term for your intention. Could be something like, I might be able to be financially free, okay? Because you're giving yourself just the smallest amount of possibility that in the infinite possibilities of the universe, there is a possibility that you might be able to be financially free. And you're going to get less resistance from yourself and from your previous conditioning to this being true. Because it is true. There is a possibility for all of us to be completely financially free, to be completely healed in the infinite possibilities, as I said, of the universe, right? The quantum model where there are just infinite realities. And then what you can do then, even if you're in that position and that's difficult, and I've worked with clients where that's actually been quite tricky for them to do, is you can even drop it down a little level below just to clear some resistance around it. And you could start with something like, I don't know if it's possible for me to be financially free. You're not saying you know it's possible. You're not saying you don't know it's possible. You're just sitting in between. And you can move up this scale and down this scale to clear resistance, but gradually you can then get to a point where you can go from, okay, I might be able to, right? Then it can move to, I can. And this, on the scale of consciousness, moves you up to the level of courage. And courage is the creative state. You move out a state of fear, a state of scarcity and lack, and it's a case of, I can do this. Now, I use I can primarily in all of my intentions when it comes to creating what I want in my life, because it gets me out of analysis paralysis and it stops me worrying about, okay, did I fully embody the feeling of the freedom I'd have, or the love that I'd feel, right? Or the gratitude I'd have about my healing. So coming from this place, and then you can take it another level. If you work with I can and you can feel it and you get that sense of I can, which is related to empowerment and determination and consistency, you can move up the scale further into something like willingness, and then neutrality and acceptance, and then you move to reason, then to love, and then to joy. That's all this is. You're just moving up the scale. And if there's an area of your life, you'll know this is relevant to you if you've been into personal development, you've read a lot of books, you've watched a lot of videos, perhaps taken courses, listened to lots of meditations, you're kind of learning and doing the work. But it seems like there's one area of your life, or maybe a few, that you cannot make progress in, and it feels like there's so much resistance to it. If that is the case, it's pointless, in my view, trying to jump your level of belief from experiencing and noticing all this area of your life never working out or being really up and down, to then suddenly trying to visualize and embody the feeling of freedom, right? The feeling of joy or gratitude or whatever it is in that end scene that you're trying to create. So this process is I call it the belief building ladder, and it's been a game changer for myself. And I want you just for this video, just to think about this in the future. Could I perhaps start at a slightly lower level and really grow that. And I will tell you, even at the lower levels, you will notice that you're actually able to do things and build momentum because you're not piling all your energy into trying to feel it. And then when you don't feel it, completely giving up and thinking, oh, this is just not working. Okay, so that is my video for you today. I hope this was really helpful and it gives you just another way to look at this to get you out of this frustration of things not changing for you and feeling like, I'm not really making any steps forward. I keep coming up against these doubts. I keep maybe self-sabotaging. I have this resistance to change. So that is all from me in this video. Take care and I'll speak to you soon.